or target, Friedrichshafen. That's where we got hit. And the flak burst, and it blew me out of the B-24. I got here at age 5, went to Washington Grammar School. I learned real early the effect of a language, the ability to communicate with a guy that looked different and all that. At that age, it was a very good tool that benefited me throughout my life. In senior high school, I dedicated myself to math, physics, etc. That's where I met Johnny Robinson. I got hooked up with gliders, and then he gave me my first glider ride up in Torrey Pines. Or target, Friedrichshafen. It was a city, but it contained the Manzel armament factory, tanks and munitions, and it was heavily defended. That's where we got hit badly. I got blown out. The bomb bays were open, so I went down to the bomb bay and was shredding all these papers, and a flak burst and it blew me out of the B-24. Coming down in my chute, I could look back and then see German trucks coming. And the only thing that was ahead of me is Lake Constance. Having swam out in the ocean, I figured, no sweat, I'll swim across. When you're going to do something difficult, never forget anything. I forgot the buoyancy factor of fresh water is only that, a half of seawater. What looked to me like to be a small swim, the buoyancy factor, plus it was ice cold. I drowned. Basically, I know the symptoms of drowning. A Swiss fisherman that was out there fishing actually fished me out of the water. He took me to Switzerland. In Switzerland, they had 3 internment camps. Adelboden, that was for the enlisted men. So I was at Adelboden. We met a young lady up in the Swiss Alps, and she asked us, would you like to try to get home? And we said yes. She ran a cafe in Geneva, and so one day she put aprons on both of us. There were 2 railroad stations. When we got near the freight car, she gave us a nudge and we hopped in there. The freight car was full of Sikhs from India that the Germans had captured. So it was a German train that was going out, and she told us 2 hours and 90 minutes, jump, you will be met. And so we did, we jumped, and I was in Grenoble, France. I got to know the sewers of Paris real well, and also one building in Paris the Nazis would not bother. That was the Muslim mosque in Paris. And finally one day, they said, they took us to a farm, southern France, blacked out Goonie bird, C-47, landed out there, and took about 15 of us back to England. That's how I finally got back out. General Al Boyd, who ran Flight Test Division, called me and he said, Bob, we're going to break the speed of sound. He didn't say we're going to try. We're going to break the speed of sound. I've already selected the team. I want us to take the team out to Muroc. Chuck will be primary on the X-1. So we went out to Muroc. We took a pit in the ground that we could put the X-1 down in the pit and then tow the B-29 or hook it up and taxi away. So with the flying tail, he went through the speed of sound, no problem. One of those flights, when I said launch, it would not release. So I had to land nose gear and main gear. And that was probably the best landing I've ever made. I had been testing many airplanes there at Muroc. Just about that time, Boyd got me set up to go to University of Southern California and get my degree. We just got settled and Boyd called me on the phone. He said, "Bob, I hate to tell you, the wing crashed and killed Glenn Edwards and Danny Forbes. When they tumbled, instead of tumbling negative, they tumbled positive. They were glued to the seat. It is a dangerous aircraft because out of a stall, it tumbles. It's a loss to me that I still feel because Glenn and I were very close." The Air Force generals and the committees and whatnot said, "We don't want to buy this." And Northrop wanted to sell it. Good old Harry Truman, he settled it his own fashion. He had me fly it nonstop from the factory to Washington. And down on the ground is when he turned to the chief of the Air Force. And why don't you have this young whippersnapper fly this down Pennsylvania Avenue? And I did. I moved to New Mexico, and that's where I became a Sigma Chi, Beta Xi, University of New Mexico. The Air Force was sending me to school there at an older age than normal. I joined Sigma Chi because there were a couple of guys that were Air Force that I hung out with who were Sigma Chi's. I went through all the rites and rituals. I became significant Sig. I still am in touch with some of the guys. Actually, a lot of the tenets upon which Sigma Chi is founded is very much like the military in what they expect of you. Always think of what's good for America, the country, because beautiful America is just too valuable worldwide because we have freedom of movement, freedom of thought, freedom of action that a lot of people throughout the world do not have.
General Cardenas is the greatest Sigma Chi I've ever met, in my opinion. He is a true hero.